And then gradually I became more interested in some rock and roll things, like Little Richard, Fats Domino, people like that. Usually black American music, though. When I moved to London, I then started looking for... I decided I wanted to do something in music rather than painting. And so I started looking for people like myself who wanted to do that and started writing songs. And over a period of about 2 years, I met the various people who became Roxy. And the first songs I wrote became the first album. We were all very surprised because we really thought that our audience would be a very small cult art school type audience, you know. And it seemed to break through. Why that name? Because it didn't mean anything. It was kind of attractive, it was vaguely glamorous, it had to do with cinema. I remember kind of thinking the names of cinemas were very kind of evocative for me, like Odeon and Plaza. Roxy seemed to be the best one. It had to do with kind of fantasy and dreams and unreality. And the music was a little bit like that. I thought different kind of forms of music when I was influenced by lots of different types of music. You know? And just try and make a new twist for everything. And experimenting with different sounds, different textures, trying to make the instrument sound a little bit different. And people really weren't using synthesizers, I think, at that time. So there was always something quirky and something idiosyncratic about the sound, which I suppose must have sounded quite fresh. I'd been running 2 careers in parallel at that point for a couple of years. Because after the first solo album, I'd done these other solo records as a kind of hobby, whereby I felt I was doing my artistic statement with Roxy and my real work with Roxy. And I had this other kind of more commercial career as a solo artist, doing other kinds of material. And I thought that was interesting because it was opening up the Roxy audience to a much wider section of people, not just this kind of cult art audience. And I thought that was kind of educational. To do these things like Hard Rain's Gonna Fall or something, and an audience might find that easier to grasp hold of, and then through that might get them to do The Strand or something Dream Home, or the other things I was more proud of, you know? That was the idea. Kind of instrumental textures, and kind of became interested in doing these kind of dreamy passages, which I do like doing still. And it's almost gotten to where I could imagine myself doing a whole album of that kind of stuff. But, and quite often now when I'm doing a song, it reaches a point where should I sing it or not? You know, will I spoil it if I sing it? But generally, I find something to do with the voice, you know, that will hopefully complement what is there. But the voice becomes just one of the centerpiece instruments, but not, it's not vocal and then band. Hopefully it's meshed in between everything.
It's kind of image of a man who likes beautiful women, beautiful cars, champagne.
I hate all of them.
So it is an image.
Well, it's something you have no control over, I hate to become image-bound, and I think that you always feel that that certain parts of things you read about yourself will be true or based on reality, but usually everything is out of proportion a bit. I've always kind of like to have as much a varied life as possible, so I have seen the world of caviar and champagne, and I have been, I suppose, in a million nightclubs in my time, but this isn't really my life. Being in the countryside, you know, covered in mud is also important as well. Being with my children is important, and my work is still very, very important.